My name is Joe Thomas. I'm a social studies teacher from Mesa, and I currently serve as president of the Arizona Education Association. And I have with me today Shannon Schell, who is the AEA Director of Government Relations. She is our person on point for all interactions with legislators and everything that happens at the legislature. We wanted to come to you all with some news that we have this morning and let you all know a little bit about what's going on, at least what we understand that's going on down at the Capitol. So Shannon, I really want to turn it over to you quickly, just right out of the gate. We heard over the weekend that the Arizona House of Representatives was being called back into session to discuss a budget. Last week, it was kind of on and off. But what is going on down there this morning? What do we know and what do we anticipate for at least the rest of the day?
So the House came back as a sort of surprise. When they took their break, they said they were going to adjourn until June 10th, or if they had worked out some negotiations, they might come back sooner. And so that's kind of what the thought was today, is that they might be coming back because they had reached some sort of agreement on the budget, that they were going to try to go through the process. And what they're attempting to do this morning is to hear all of the 10 budget bills in their committee of the whole and then do a final vote on them as the House of Representatives. With that has come a series of amendments that they dropped at 8:30 this morning, not really giving a whole lot of time to the public or legislators, in fact, to even have a chance to review them or look at them and see what they're doing. And so from a process standpoint, they're gonna just slowly maybe try to get through some of these bills. However, as they're debating right now, we're seeing that the first budget bill that they're discussing is failing. All Democrats and one Republican, Representative Cook, are voting against the budget bill that's up right now.
Okay. Well, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm a social studies teacher. I taught U.S. government for several years. Loved it, loved working with seniors. And the Arizona legislature during the spring semester almost always gave me an interesting bill to discuss with the students to see how they felt about it. So I know that they need 16 yes votes in the Senate and they need 31 yes votes in the House. That's a majority in both of those chambers. But everything seems so chaotic with all these starts and stops. Now, you're a veteran of budgets. I'm a veteran of budgets. A lot of our members have been down to the Capitol, and they know that it's not unusual for Arizona to go through the night in passing a budget. Now, that's very unusual if you talk to people from other states. They almost cannot believe that we have a process that works while people are sleeping and they can't be watching. This seems different. We may be going through the night, but this start and stop and not having enough votes and still getting down there and making people come in, it just seems so chaotic. So what else can you add to help our members understand really what is going on and maybe what's not going on?
So it's like you just said, in order to pass a budget, you need 31 votes in the House, 16 votes in the Senate, and the governor's signature. What's different about this year is there's a 1 vote margin in both the House and the Senate. And as somebody put over the weekend, that means every Republican in the legislature has veto power. Every Republican can join with their Democratic colleagues to kill this budget over whatever it is that they may want. And that's why we're seeing this series of amendments this morning. Again, like I said, we got the amendments at 8:30 this morning, so there hasn't been a lot of time to review them. But part of that is to try to get everyone, get those 31 and 16 Republicans to vote for this. And as we're seeing right now, they didn't do that. They didn't accomplish what their goal was. And so there is going to be a lot of just this kind of chaotic energy and starting and stopping as the legislature tries to get enough members to get a budget passed. Okay.
So one of the things you had talked about in a previous conversation, and many of our members will remember Senate Bill 1532. And we're seeing bills like that are coming back and being jammed into these budgets. So that's new to me. Sometimes the budget bills make a little sense that they have not technical corrections, but how this new money is going to be used. But what are we seeing this year that's really different around this kind of last ditch effort to bring these bills back up that were publicly vetted for the most part and were killed or died in committee?
So the budget is more than just one bill. I think just for context, the budget is usually a series of bills, around 10. And we always talk about the main bill, which is the bill that has all of the funding in it, but you have these additional bills that are meant to be, like you said, sort of that like technical correction, or if you're creating a new grant program, we're going to put language into law that says how that grant program is going to run, some provisions of it. You see a little more of that policy piece, but it's tied to funding. What we've seen over the last few years is that these bills get beefed up with more and more policy and not necessarily related to the budget. And particularly this year, we're seeing these budget bills that we like, you know, on the ground call the burbs. We see them being packed with bills that have died. And so when we're looking at the amendments that are being proposed for K-12, the bill itself looks like a zombie bill. It's just legislation that already has gone through the process and didn't make it, and is now being brought back in perhaps an attempt to try to get Republicans on board with the budget. But we're looking at things like seeing 1532 come back, which failed in the Senate and is now being brought back. And this is the bill that talks about, you know, preventing controversial topics from being discussed in the classroom, and fining teachers up to $5,000 for a violation of this. And so these things, which again, the language of 1532 didn't go through the normal process. Like that language itself was an amendment on the House floor. It never went through a committee. It never had the opportunity for public input. And once again, it's the same thing. It's being introduced with very little notice. When this bill first came up, we got maybe an hour's notice that it was being heard. Same thing today. We're getting about an hour's notice that they're going to run this language. And it's not been vetted through the public. It's not gone through the normal process. In addition to that, they're trying to ram through this other new policy that wasn't a bill at all this year, but says that no counties, cities, towns, or governing boards can require schools to have students and staff wear masks. This is not something that went through the legislative process at all. It's not even remotely related to a budget item, but is now showing up in a budget bill.
It just sounds like a mess. And again, I've been down there when I would have characterized it as a mess before, and this seems so. If people want to watch, if we've not scared them away, if we've not made them so frustrated that they can't look at the legislator, if they want to watch, how do they do that?
So they can certainly watch online. The legislature is going to be live streaming this as they're on the floor. We do have sort of a stop moment right now. I don't know if they're going to try to proceed and go to the next bill, or if they're going to take a break and try to regroup. But certainly on the Arizona Legislative website, you'll be able to watch when they're on the floor and see that action throughout the day. And then in terms of like in person, we've been told that the gallery is open, that the house is open, the gallery is open as if it were normal, if it wasn't during a pandemic. And so there is a possibility for people to go down and watch in person.
Okay, and we'll put those links into the comment section so you all can click on those and watch if you want. The last thing I want to leave everyone with is just prior, or at the end of last week, we launched a survey around the budget to our members. So if you're an AEA member, please check your email. It may be in a spam folder. It may be in a different folder than your inbox, but look for one. Either search for my name, Joe Thomas, or search for Ellie Perez. One of those names should bring it right up. It's really important. It's about 12 questions that ask you about your budget priorities. We want to be able to give that to the legislature pretty quickly this week so they can see what educators are saying about what the budget and the resources should be used for this year. We want to be clear. We're not facing budget cuts this year as much as we're facing a massive tax cut that would prevent us from investing some of this new revenue that we have into our schools. We could be investing in counselors and nurses and music and arts program. We could be reducing class sizes. We could be fixing air conditioners and repairing school buses. There's a lot of things that we could do with some of this additional funding if they just put a piece of it into our schools, dedicated to higher ed, or invested in Arizona in some sense. Instead, what we're seeing them do are come up with various different ways of passing massive tax cuts that predominantly benefit millionaires, and then shift the burden in future years for tax revenue onto the rest of us, to where we'll have to pay more either through a sales tax or through other tax schemes and fees that they come up with while they're, protecting millionaires from paying their fair share. So we want to make sure you all take the survey, check through your email, call AEA or call your organizational consultant or your local president. If you can't find your email, we'll make sure we get connected to that. I want to turn it back over to Shannon for any last words to close us out. Shannon?
The only thing I'll say is we'll try to keep people updated throughout the day. It's gonna, like I said, it'll be a lot of start and stopping, and they're gonna do whatever procedural moves they can to try to make this budget work. I'm watching them try to revote on the bill right now. So they're gonna do a lot of that today, just trying to get things through, and there might be some pausing along the way. So we'll just keep people updated as we get more information.
All right. Thank you much. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being members and for supporting us as we try to build better schools in this state. Have a great day, everybody. We'll be back with you when there's more news.